Good morning, Bix Weir, roadtoroota.com, with your horn of Z's, your sip of coffee, your morning news. Very exciting things going on everywhere. You name it. If you're having problems putting the pieces together, don't worry, you're not the only one. Everybody is. I am too. Although yesterday was a big day with Trump coming out and saying that he's ready to break down the big banks and destroy the banking cabal. They need those big banks to run the derivative book, which controls prices, which controls inflation, and to run their more crooked games behind the scenes. The big banks are definitely necessary for the bad guys, and if Trump breaks them up, it's like ripping the guts out of the bad guys. So we'll see what happens when the time comes, and the time I think is coming. But let's go through some really important news on Zero Hedge today. Let's start in the upper left there. Dr. Pachinik says counter-revolution taking place inside the White House to silence the alt-right. Steve Pachinik is a true patriot, one of the good guys behind the scenes. He has worked deep in the military for decades, and he understands what goes on. He's been a part of a lot of what goes on. He talks very bluntly about what the United States has done around the world, covertly, to take out other countries, to implement their own dictator, supposedly, in these countries, and then take their resources and continue the game going. So definitely that is referring to an interview that Pachinik did with Alex Jones, who is still fighting to keep excitement in our world after Trump has kind of done his 180. I don't think it is a real 180 at all. I think it's absolutely planned, even within his own people. They don't really know what he's doing, which is the way that Trump works and the way he likes it to work. He is planning to destroy the system and rebuild it, which is a great thing for the United States, but it's going to be very, very difficult. Right now, if the system crashes now, it's kind of hard to blame Trump. If it crashes in 2 years, it's pretty easy to blame Trump. So he knows he's got to crash it soon. And let's look at the first article right here. Trump, U.S. needs a good showdown in September to fix this mess. Our country needs a good showdown in September to fix this mess. What in the world is he talking about? Here is the article. With Congress poised this week to approve a deal to fund the government through September, the first major bipartisan legislation of Trump's presidency, after lengthy negotiations, which have appeared to signal numerous folds by President Trump, apparently frustrated by the lack of tyrannical powers that a simple majority grants him, President Trump has lashed out this morning at disagreeable Democrats, and in particular, Senate Democrats. Trump is classic in sending out these tweets. Here's the tweets he sent out this morning. The reason for the plan negotiated between the Republicans and Democrats is that we need 60 votes in the Senate, which are not there. We either elect more Republican senators in 2018 or change the rules now to 51%. Our country needs a good showdown in September to fix this mess. He's talking about the next time they have to go back for a budget. It got extended. I think it already got extended to September, or it has the votes to get extended to September, and everything's pointing towards September. The thing about a good showdown in September to fix this mess, no, a showdown does not fix the mess. What the showdown does is destroy the unbacked fiat monetary system. That's the showdown that Trump is talking about. Whether it's September, everything's pointing to at least the final crash of the system in September, just like in 2008, going about it the same way with computers and derivatives behind the scenes to crash the system. I don't personally think it's going to last till September. There's just too many things going on outside of what Trump is in control of. And it goes on to say, as a reminder, the proposed government funding deal does not include funding for Trump's proposed wall along the U.S.-Mexican border or include language stripping federal money from so-called sanctuary cities, both of which the White House demanded at the outset of negotiations. In fact, As we reported yesterday, the bill has been seen widely as a victory for Democrats, something which has been panned by the conservative press. While the White House also backed off a threat to withhold Obamacare subsidy payments to insurance companies, Trump did secure increased military spending in the 2017 budget deal. Yes, of course, they're going to spend money, as much money as possible, until the system implodes, and that's exactly what Trump's doing as well. According to The Hill, the comments will likely irk top Republican lawmakers who have been frustrated by Trump's repeated attempts to intervene in the legislative process. The businessman turned president, in turn, has vented frustration with the slow pace of work on Capitol Hill. Yes, Trump was trying to get certain things in place for a smooth landing. The Democrats aren't allowing that because they know if there is any landing at all, they're in deep trouble. A lot of these congressmen, the Democratic side and the Republican side. So I had always said all along to Trump that he should have let the system crash. Steve Mnuchin is supporting all the financial markets with his computer programs that he brought over from Goldman Sachs, and he colludes with all the other banksters. By prolonging this system, it's just like what happened in the 1960s with Alan Greenspan and Arthur Burns. They prolonged the unbacked fiat monetary system by using computers and derivatives, and it has gone on for decades. And what happens as you prolong these things is the bad guys get footholds, and then you're marginalized, and then it's over. So Trump is in the battle of his life internally to not have the bad guys, as I call them, get too entrenched. And right now it looks like he's fighting with his own U.S. Treasury Secretary, who yesterday said he was in charge of the banks doing so well. Trump came out an hour later and said he's ready to break up the big banks. Really interesting dynamic going on in Washington. The article goes on. Trump said, disappointed that it didn't go quicker. Trump told Fox News last week when asked about the Republican effort to repeal and replace Obamacare. Commenting on Trump's tweets, Citibank asked rhetorically whether this could be a case for cutting one's nose to split one's face. Potentially problematic when the nose in question is attached to the current administration. It seems counterintuitive that a sitting president would want a shutdown unless he was to blame it on the opposition in order to force through recovery, encourage a voter backlash. It seems counterintuitive that a sitting president would want a shutdown. It doesn't seem counterintuitive. Trump wants to destroy the system, wants to destroy the unbacked monetary system, which was always the plan. Had he done something the opposite, it would have proved that he doesn't want to destroy the system. It would prove he wants to kick the can. No, Trump does not want to kick the can. The people who are in charge of this counter-revolution from the United States military and the intelligence agencies behind the scenes, the good guys behind the scenes, are going to take down the system. This is what has been prolonged for all these years. This was the secret that Obama told Trump when he got into office, and only the BBC reported on that. And they interviewed Trump, and they said, well, what did Obama tell you that was so secret? And at the time, Trump said, well, that's President Obama's, that's a question for President Obama. I'm not the president at the moment, but it's a big, big, big problem. That's the problem. How do you press the red button and get rid of the current system and put in a new system? I mean, everybody knows how to do it. Just turn off the computers in the basement of the U.S. Treasury and the Fed that rig the markets every day, and then let the markets find its true free market value, fair market value, silver especially. Luckily, Bitcoin and Ethereum are out there finding their fair market values as they're going off the charts these days. I think Bitcoin crossed over $1,500 already. Remember, not too long ago, it was at $200, and I'm screaming and yelling at people saying, get in, you're going to kick yourself for not getting in at this point in time. So here we are at $1,500, and you've kicked yourself. I'm saying it again, get in. You're going to kick yourself for not getting in at this point in time. The exact same thing is going to happen a year from now. You're going to look back and say, I could have bought Bitcoin when it was only $1,500. This has gone on since the invention of Bitcoin, my friends. And now it's a lot more safer than it was to invest in it when it was, under $100. So it's time. It's time. Go to Coinbase, set yourself up an account, or buy a Road to Ruta private road subscription, and you get $30 in paper wallet Bitcoin mailed to your front door. Because it's time. The ship hasn't completely gone to sea, but it has definitely left the harbor. And you can still take a shuttle out to that ship, because when that ship goes, it's going into the deep ocean, and you're going to see Bitcoin prices in the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars over the years. This is not going away, and if you think it's a flash in the pan, or it's going to go away, or some EMP is going to wipe out every Bitcoin, think again, my friends. You know, if there's an EMP, we're all dead anyway. But if the internet comes back up, all your Bitcoin is still there. It doesn't go away as long as you store it properly on a paper wallet. That's my big suggestion, the paper wallet, because you can see your public address and your private address. All you really need to redeem a Bitcoin or trade or anything is your public address and private address. Your private address is like the key to the vault. So if you lose that, you're out of luck, because that's what you use to bring Bitcoin back onto an online wallet where you can spend it, trade it, do whatever you want with it. All right, moving on. Let's go down. So Trump definitely is looking for a showdown in September. I think the showdowns are already happening. You know, if the system lasts to September, basically he's saying that's when he's going to put a stop to it. So I would say the time window for the people who are working with him, the side of the good guys and slash bad guys are trying to make a soft landing for this debacle called our economic system. Trump has just given you a deadline, September. You either make the smooth landing happen between now and September, or it's game over and he's going to pull the plug. Yahoo! We have an end date. Well, it's the beginning date of our next adventure, truthfully. Airlines are in deep trouble. The Italian airline filed for Alitalia just filed for bankruptcy. Huge problem. They're laying off workers, and of course in Italy it's very difficult to lay off anybody, and so the government takes it over, and the government's already in trouble with the ECB. Yeah, it's ugly, and it's going to get uglier in Europe, and then it'll come over here within weeks once the banks start really shutting down. Oshzif suffers record redemptions in first 4 months of 2017 as AUM plunges 1 year after Oshzif Capital settled a bribery case that led to jump in redemption requests and an exodus in high-profile executives. On Tuesday, the hedge fund reported that it suffered record net withdrawals in the first 4 months of the year, extending several straight quarters of outflows. Hedge funds cannot handle outflows. The reason is they are highly leveraged. They're like a bank. They borrow, I don't think they can get to 10 to 15 to 1, but they borrow a lot. In the derivatives world, they can get anywhere they want. But that's great when things are going up, because hedge funds make money, because you're making an increased multiple on your money. If you have $1 to invest and you invest 4 due to leverage, you're going to make 3 times, 4 times the earnings. But in the reverse, the same thing happens. When you lose money, you're going to lose 3 or 4 times what your investment was. So yeah, that's why hedge funds rise slow and steady, and then hit that fever pitch, and then when they crash, they crash spectacularly, because they have to deleverage, and that's exactly what happened to these guys. They'll be out of business soon, but this is going to go on with every hedge fund. So be careful. That's one of the very same things that happened back in 2008. Is the hedge funds were losing their leverage lines. So J.P. Morgan will stop offering $200 million to a tiny hedge fund as play money, because they J.P. Morgan and big banks get a little stingier about the potential implosion of these hedge funds, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. They pull the money back, hedge funds have to sell assets, everybody's selling the same assets, and it drives the price down. Okay, let's see. North Korea is still threatening final doom as U.S. deploys strategic bombers. If there is going to be another war, it will most likely take place in Korea, and most likely take place in a very, very short time frame, where China or the U.S. or Japan takes out all of North Korea's military capability. Probably a coalition, an unannounced coalition, if North Korea continues the way they are. And there's no signs of that stopping. And remember that North Korea is the last stronghold of the bad guys as far as national sovereignty. They pretty much have free reign. The bad guys have free reign in North Korea. And that goes back to the invention of North Korea at the end of World War II. All right, moving on. Wilbur Ross, Trump's Syria strike was an after-dinner entertainment. That's not a good headline. Just as his dessert was being served, the president explained to Mr. Xi that he had something he wanted to tell him, which was the launching of 59 missiles into Syria, Ross said. It was in lieu of after-dinner entertainment. Yeah, that's not a good headline there, Mr. Ross. You don't want the left media having something like that they can, sink their teeth into and say, oh, it's all entertainment to Mr. Trump. Trump didn't say it's after dinner entertainment. That's Mr. Ross telling a reporter it was in lieu of after dinner entertainment. It's what happened after dinner, and it was planned before that. So Trump, as a gentleman and host that he was, said, let's finish dinner and then we need to talk serious. Anyway, but here is the meat, the guts of it. Why is Trump making this 180? The Senate quietly drops Russian sanctions bill, focuses on Iran crackdown. We're not going to do a Russian sanctions bill. There you go. And not only that, there's more going on behind the scenes. Very soon they will drop the Trump investigation into Russia. Over time, Russia and the U.S. will hug, and China will hug, and anybody working for the good guys will hug, and maybe even battle these bad guys. The bad guy stronghold. Obviously, the EU is right around the center focus for government of the bad guys. A lot of the old bad guys are dying off, Rothschilds and people like that, or on their deathbeds. The Clintons. George Soros looks like he should be dead. I'm sure he will kick on soon and go to that mystery island of death and disappearance that Ken Lay went to, and many others before him. Pretty much everybody who died mysteriously and their bodies were not checked, shall we say, ends up on the Ken Lay Island. Wherever that is, it could be an underground bunker. It could be, probably an island in the Caribbean, I would guess. All right, there it is. Italy's national carrier Alitalia files for bankruptcy. Not good for the Italian people, not good for the Italian government, but it's the first of many, many, many bankruptcies that are coming. There was white smoke. Greece reaches deal with lenders, promising even more austerity. With promises to further cut pensions and give taxpayers fewer breaks, Greece paved the way for the disbursement of further rescue funds from international lenders and possibly open the door to reworking its massive debt, Reuters reported. Greek Finance Minister Ekelid Tzakos announced it with a term associated with papal elections. There was white smoke, he told the reporters. Greece is playing the game to the bitter end. They're going to keep, as long as the EU is going to keep shoveling money into Greece, Greece will continue to accept the money, and the people will continue to be screwed. But once they get the money in hand, it doesn't go to the Greek people, go to the Greek government. It goes to the banksters. These are bankster bailouts. The banksters who have loans with Greece, and that's the Greek derivative market is gigantic. And once Greek goes, everything goes. So they're gonna get a little more money probably to run to September, just like everybody else. Global stocks hit all-time highs. Fed meeting begins. If the Fed raises rates, you can be sure it's a sign that the system's falling apart. And if they don't raise rates, they're in a pickle now because they've already told everybody they're going to continue to raise rates. But the raising the rates is really killing a lot of different companies and businesses, and the amount that the U.S. government gets into debt because it affects the debt of the United States. All right, let's see. Technology has changed the game. Why the rise of robots will be a permanent deflationary force. Yeah, until the robots break down. And until, say, there is an EMP or something like that, and you can kiss everything goodbye. People no longer know how to make things, and it's a very good possibility that we might revert to kind of a world that was, the world was like a couple hundred years ago. If we do have any kind of computer glitch, shall we say, a global computer glitch, either a software bug, which is always possible, an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, or a solar flare, all of those three things would destroy the electronic system either in local areas or over larger areas. And then what do? We're screwed. We don't remember how to make anything. We don't remember how to do anything ourselves. Most people can't do any highly difficult computations in their head because they grew up with computers and grew up with calculators. So some of the very basic things of life are not being taught anymore, and people can't do them. So we are screwed without computers. And how would we entertain ourselves on this YouTube video or any other video? Lots of exciting things coming. Will it happen? I don't know. It could. It very well could. All right. Trump got pissed off at a CBS reporter. I saw that, and the guy was just trying to push buttons, trying to make the news, and Trump said, these people don't get it. He's calling the guy fake news right to his face. So you might question, why does Trump even have these interviews that he doesn't want to, if he's not going to tell people that they're fake news and they report only the bad stuff, but that's exactly what he did. He's saying he called out CNN in that one and said they're fake news. All they say is lies about me, and they'll never report on any of the good stuff that we're doing. It's tough to get a foothold in the American psyche on these good things that we're doing because you got too much fake news. It's kind of like a counter-revolution on the media going after the current sitting president. There might be a law passed after this is all over that says it is treasonous to do what CNN is doing right now. But right now, we go with it. It's all we got. Central banks are... Wait, look at this. Does the reality of it's different this time get tested this week? One can't shake the feeling that we're precisely, once again, on the knife's edge. And just the mere fact of the markets precariously balanced on that edge is beginning to draw blood. The telltale signs are everywhere. Let's look at those telltale signs. Let's see here. If you're in one of the myriad of analysts, next in rotation fund managers, tech commentators et al., paraded across the financial business media over the past week, you had a good week. The narrative of earnings beats together with so-called relief rally emanating via the French elections helped propel the argument. However, if one, once again, peered past the headlines of non-GAAP reporting alchemy that would make Isaac Newton envious, one could clearly see that all was not good. Both Amazon and Alphabet beat handily, and yet a few questions emerge via my reasoning. First, has Google ad revenue benefited from an increasing advertising pie? Or are we seeing the first hints of rotation from platform to platform as advertisers dump one for another in a desperate attempt to obtain some form of return for their social or digital ad dollars? Google ads, Google is very bad these days. Against all media, and they're censoring everything. They will probably lose revenue after a while because people like videos that are more controversial and true. It ring true to people. The true news. YouTube is owned by Google, and they clearly are censoring all these videos that we do. Good or bad or happy your side. Sometimes ads are played and sometimes they're not. It's kind of pick and choose. I think it even more might have to do with the fact that the YouTube business model is not all that sound. Paying out all these commissions to people for their content is great, but you need to remember to save some profit for you. And once they stop paying out people to make content, you're not going to get much content, and then people are going to go to other places really fast. And I think at some point YouTube will die that way, not because it got too controversial. It'll die because people will find a different place to watch their videos and a different place to post their videos, unless YouTube makes a big turnaround and starts embracing what the free people of the United States are saying. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, there's signs everywhere. I'm sure this lists all the signs that it's different this time. It is not. I mean, we're Bubble City. The only difference is this will be the final crash. 87, 2001, 2008. And this 2017 will be the final crash of the unbacked fiat monetary system, because there's not enough money available on hand to bail out the banks again, so they're going to have to go to Congress. And the FDIC doesn't have very much money compared to what they insure. So it will come to Congress. Now the question is, will Congress kick the can down the road? If you remember in 2008, September 29th, they went to Congress, the banksters went to Congress, and Congress voted no on the bailout. The very first attempt to get a bailout, Congress voted no, stock market drops 50%. And then they said, oh, you have to, and Hank Paulson orchestrated $700 billion in bailout money for the banks. And they leveraged it to 20-30 trillion. This time it'll be Congress. They'll go to Congress with a bill for 20 trillion plus all the derivatives. And the people will say, no, we've had enough. That's it. It's over. The game over. And then they get to start fresh again. All right. Contagion Home Capital Bank spreads to another Canadian mortgage lender. It will spread to every bank. This is just the beginning. If you have money in the system, get it out. Get it in your own possession. Even if you want cash, Federal Reserve notes, or whatever country you live in, get it out of the. There's no reason to have a bank between you and your money. The solvency of a bank. If you have to pay bills, put money in the bank for those bills. You can do it weekly, you can do it monthly, but if you have any kind of large amount of money in the bank, in your brokerage houses, in your 401ks, anything, it's all going to be gone in this big crash. So make sure you take steps to remove yourself from that system. Get physical gold and silver in your own possession. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other cryptos you want to take a flyer on in your own possession, not online wallets. Not in exchanges. Everything's about third-party risk now. So I know a lot of people are locked into their 401ks. You could take a loan on it and buy some silver or gold physical in your own possession. You pay the interest to yourself. Or you can do, if you have a IRA or anything other than a employer sponsored and regulated savings account, you can probably do a rollover. Call Will Lair at perpetualassets.com and he'll tell you what's going on. Next we have, that's it for today. Very exciting times we live in. Keep an eye on the destruction of the European system. Keep an eye on our friends at Deutsche Bank, because Monte de Pesci is already going to the Italian government for more money. Air Italia is already there. So yeah, things are breaking down. There's no green shoots on the horizon, so hang in there, my friends. Bix Weir, don't forget to subscribe to this video and go to the website to get a free book, Silver, Gold, Bitcoin, and God. And all you have to do is put your name and email in the free email section. You'll get free emails and you'll get a PDF book. So check it out. Talk to you later.